Okay, hey everybody, this is Mr. Beck with the English 2 department at Parkway North High School. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be focusing on an important storytelling technique, which is the point of view. The point of view, basically, you guys, is all about the narrator. And so it's referring to the narrator's point of view. You can only look at the narration to determine point of view. Words and dialogue do not count. So we're going to come back to that here in just a moment. But the first thing we're going to do is discuss with you the different types of point of view that you're going to be seeing this year in English 2. So the three types of point of view. The first type is the first person point of view. Just always think of the picture this person is pointing to herself. It's all about her. First person point of view. Okay. The second person point of view, which is used rarely, we will discuss it today briefly though, is when it's all about when the narrator uses the word you. And then there's third person point of view, and there's a few types of third person point of view that we're going to get into in a little bit. But these are your three basic types. You have your first person, your second person, and your third person. Now, the first person point of view is when the narrator is in the story and refers to him or herself. So a very good thing in using first person point of view is we do get inner access to the character's thoughts and feelings and actions and words. We get to see what's going on inside their brain and why they're making their decisions, why they're thinking these things, why they're feeling these things. So that's a positive, obviously, with using first person point of view. One of the negatives, though, and we have to be aware of this, is that when you're using first person point of view, the narrator can possibly be unreliable or inaccurate because they're only seeing the story from their side or their point of view. If you read Catcher in the Rye, Holden Caulfield is a classic example of sort of an unreliable narrator using first person point of view. We only get to see his side of the story, and sometimes the story can be skewed. A dead giveaway though, you guys, is for first person point of view, they're going to be using words like I, me, we, us, our, or my. So those are classic words right there that are going to alert you that it's first person point of view. Here's an example from Percy Jackson. As you can see, some of these words are bolded to show you how he's using I or my. So this is a small snippet of a first person point of view example here. I'll let you read that to yourself just for a moment. Okay, so as you can see, their focus is on words like I, my, and this is a good example of first person point of view. Second person point of view, as I said, it's almost never used in literature. It's when the narrator says you and puts the reader directly into the story. As I say again, you're not going to be seeing second person point of view a whole lot. But the way I can describe it is if you ever think of a classic like Disney cartoon, and the main character of the story is walking down the street, and there's a voice kind of coming from somewhere, and it's talking about what the narrator is, what the person is doing. So Goofy's walking down the street, and you know the narrator says, "Oh, and you're having a good day," and Goofy smiles and nods his head. All right, that's an example of second person point of view. Again, you're not going to see this a whole lot, so we're going to focus on today primarily first person and third person. Here's an example of a second person point of view from joedunco.com. There is darkness everywhere. A small amount of light is radiating from the half moon floating in the sky overhead. There are no stars. It is cold and humid. You look around you and find your friends gone. You are completely alone. So again, think back to just the narrator is saying you, referring to the main character. Kind of an odd choice there for point of view. But the narrator says you a lot in the Percy Jackson example, okay? So again, if you think back, this is what Percy Jackson was saying. If you're reading this because you think you might be one, my advice is, all right? So it's true that he is saying you, that Percy Jackson does talk to the reader sometimes, but it's still his narrative. He is the one narrating. It's still first person perspective. And so, as we said in the first slide, which I'm going to click all the way back to this opening slide here, words and dialogue do not count. Okay, so he's having dialogue right now, and yet he's still narrating it in his perspective. Okay, now, third person point of view. This is where it gets a little bit interesting because there's different options for a third person point of view. The narrator is telling a story about other people. So that means that they're removed from the story. They're not going to say I, me, or we, but they'll use words like he, she, him, her, they, them, their, characters' names as well. Okay, and oh wait, there's more. So there are three types of third person narrators. There is the omniscient narrator, or all-knowing. There is the limited narrator, where they only have a limited perspective. And then there's the objective narrator, where they're sort of staying removed or objective from the story. An omniscient narrator is a narrator who knows everything that needs to be known about the characters and events in the story and who has privileged access to a character's thoughts, feelings, and motives. The narrator never needs to say maybe or perhaps. A character feels something, they always know. And this is perhaps the simplest way of telling the story. So the omniscient narrator obviously is going to know everything, and that's an effective way of giving different perspectives. It's a positive way of third-person omniscient narrator storytelling. Now, limited narrator is where a narrator, as it says, has limited perspective. They're only confined to experience a thought or feeling by one character or a limited number of characters. They're not going to know everything that's going on in the story with every single character. It might be just sort of one-sided. And then the objective narrator is also, this is a positive way of point of view because, again, you're trying to remove yourself from the story. So if you think of a newspaper or any magazine article that deals possibly with politics or even sports, the writer of the story is remaining objective. He's not going to be saying that this is the best way to go about something or whatnot. So think for a moment if you're reading an article about the Miami Heat versus the San Antonio Spurs. The narrator, the writer of the article has to be objective. He cannot say, the Miami Heat are my favorite team and they're the best team and so on. So that word objective just means you kind of remove yourself from a sort of personal experience with the people involved. You can comment and see and hear things. They're not going to know everyone's thoughts or feelings. And they're also going to remain a little bit detached from the story. Okay, so now it's time to do a little game called Guess the Narrator. So we're going to give you some passages here to read through, and then you are going to pick which narrator is correct, the omniscient or the all-knowing narrator, the limited narrator, or which is one-sided a little bit, only knows one character, possibly two, and then the objective narrator where they know the majority of what's going on, but they don't really they're not attached to the personal side of the story. So here we go. Lily shivered and sobbed while sitting alone under the tree. Jacob felt a pang of pity for her, and though he worried what the others might say, he walked to her, sat beside her, and offered her his jacket. So which ones are going to be here? All-knowing, limited, or objective? And the answer is limited. So I'm sure you all guessed that. Sorry, that was a little bit rushed, but you knew it, right? The answer is limited. Let's go back for a second and figure out why. Lily shivered and sobbed while sitting alone under the tree. Well, let's stop right there. We don't really know exactly why Lily is shivering and sobbing. We just get to see, it's an act that we see, that we witness. We don't know what's going on inside her head. Jacob felt a pang of pity for her and was worried what the others might think. So we know that Jacob is worried about something. We're not sure exactly what's going on with Lily, but we do know that Jacob has pity and worry. So we know Jacob's side, but not Lily's side. So therefore, that will be limited. Let's try another one. Okay, same situation, same characters, Lily and Jacob. All right, now let's guess the narrator here. Lily shivered and sobbed while sitting alone under the tree. Jacob gazed at her with a stare suggestive of pity, and his lips tightened as though he debated something of importance. He gave one timid glance back at the others and then walked boldly over to Lily and sat beside her. So, are we doing omniscient, all-knowing, limited, only knowing one side, or objective, where we don't know exactly what's going on in the scenario? And the answer is objective. Okay, so we go back again, and everything that we see in this narration, we only get to see acts. We see Lily shivering and sobbing. We don't know why. We don't know why. We see Jacob gazing at her, and then tightening his lips, and then glancing, and then walking. Okay, these are all actions that we are witnessing. We aren't seeing the reason, we're just seeing actions. So there's no personal attachment, it's just an objective viewpoint. Right, and that is why that narration is objective. Okay, let's try it again. Lily shivered and tried unsuccessfully not to sob while sitting alone under the tree. She was more embarrassed and miserable than she had ever been. Jacob felt a pang of pity for her, and though he worried what the others might say, he walked to her, sat beside her, and offered her his jacket. Okay, so before we move on, we see that she is shivering and trying not to sob, which is an action, but now we figure out that she is embarrassed and miserable. So we know an inner feeling about Lily there. All right, here we go. Jacob felt a pang of pity, which is a feeling, all right, and worrying about what others might say is another feeling. Walking to her, sitting beside her is an action. So we know what's going on in both characters' situations right now. And so since we know that, the answer, of course, is omniscient. Okay. I want to thank you all for listening today. I hope you feel more informed now than you did before this PowerPoint on point of view. And we look forward to seeing you in the classroom and assessing how you're doing. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day.